You have questions and we've got some answers.
Welcome to Q&A with A&D.
All right, Alex, so let's get started with this very popular question we get all the time. How do I know I'm ready to be a teacher?
That's a good question. So I would ask first, are you sure you want to be a teacher? Why do you want to be a teacher? I think sometimes we misconstrued attempting or starting to teach with just beginning to share information, right? With maybe friends, family members, you know, a few moves, a few steps. But once you kind of get into the nitty gritty and understand what it really takes to become an instructor, there's deeper questions you have to ask yourself. Why? What is your perspective? What is your point of view? And assuming that you've already went through that evaluation, then there's a few things that we need to consider, right? One of them being, are you solid or feel solid enough in your foundation and your fundamentals to be able to splice and dice that information to students in ways that they can understand how to dance, how to perform particular moves or execute specific techniques, right?
Yeah, definitely with that. I mean, not always. Everybody's got to start somewhere, right? So even if you're a performer, a director, any kind of artist or anything, right? Any profession that you do, you're gonna start off with less experience than the more seasoned teacher. So that's one thing. Don't get caught up in that. But I think what you said is very poignant. What are you teaching and why are you teaching, right? So why is a big thing, but what are you teaching? In regards to dance, are you teaching choreography? So this could be very just like stylistic, right? You don't necessarily have to have a set pedagogy to teach choreography. But if you are teaching technique classes, do you have the fundamentals or the awareness of the basic movements to be able to regurgitate that to your students?
And that's a good point. You mentioned pedagogy. So one of the things about being an instructor is that once you're, again, solid in your foundation, in your delivery, right? There are so many aspects to teaching. For example, you need to be able to be prepared to handle students that have absolutely no dance background, no technique, no foundation, and now you're the first entry point for that student to be able to, you're introducing them to the dance, right? And then you should also be able to teach people who have a lot more dance background, dance experience. So it's a spectrum, right? Of those that are coming in front door, having absolutely no knowledge, and then the people who are more intermediate and advanced, and then again, being able to deliver that information in different ways. The pedagogy is very, very important because you have a specific way, a specific structure, even the nomenclature of moves that you're using, and then showing people how those moves evolve into more intermediate and advanced steps. That's all part of creating your repertoire of moves, of movement vocabulary when you're teaching.
Absolutely, because it's what you do tell your students and what you don't tell your students that will shape your students. So teaching is a big responsibility. I'd also like to say that just because you know a lot, the information doesn't stop there. Alex and I continue to educate ourselves to be the best teachers that we can. So it's not like we've been teaching 10 years and then we're gonna stop, learning and growing. No, there's always new ways to engage your students. There's always new techniques to be found, new styles, teaching approaches. So there's always something to learn, always something, there's always room to grow. So that's just a personal question when you're ready.
And also I think understanding too that there's different learning environments, right? Yes. Teaching at a club, for example, at the happy hour is very different from teaching, for example, in a studio setting or in a congress or festival. Managing a room of 20 students versus a room of 300 or 500 students. And so that experience is also really important so that you feel, so that you're more prepared, again, to be able to teach in those different settings.